Good morning, students. Welcome to the lecture of financial management. In the last lecture, we have already started with the concept capital structure. In that, we have learned the basic concept of what is capital structure decisions. After that, we have seen the basic introduction of what is capital structure. The next point we have seen components of capital structure. It includes the owner's funds and the borrowed funds. Some few definitions of capital structure we have covered. The features of optimum capital structure. We have seen the different features of optimum capital structure. After that, we have seen the importance of capital structure. Next point was factors determining capital structure. What are the different factors which are going to determine the capital structure, which are going to affect the capital structure? After that, we have started the next point, that is theories of capital structure, which is very important under the capital structure lesson. Okay, on these theories we have to solve n number of numericals, practical. Okay, so in that we have already seen first two theories. There are four theories in capital structure basically. First one is net income approach, second one is net operating income approach, third one is Modigliani Miller approach, and the fourth one is traditional approach. These are the four theories. In that we have already seen first two theories, that is net income approach and net operating income approach. Okay, in the net income approach, what we have seen, in the net income approach, debt proportion in the capital structure plays a very important role. In net income approach, the main focus on the debt proportion in a capital structure. As the debt proportion increases in the capital structure, the value of the firm increases. Okay, this was said by David under the net income approach. And after that, we have seen the second one, that is net operating income approach. According to this theory, there is no role of debt proportion on the value of the firm. Value of the firm remains constant irrespective of the debt proportion increase or decrease in a capital structure. What net income approach says? Net income approach says that if we are increasing the debt proportion in the capital structure, then definitely the cost of debt is less as compared to equity. Okay, debt sourcing, debt financing is very cheaper as compared to equity. Okay, but as we are increasing the debt proportion in a capital structure, what will happen? The risk for the equity holders, equity shareholders will increase. That means the equity cost will increase. And if debt cost is going to decrease or is very less as compared to equity, on the other hand equity cost is going to increase, then ultimately the overall cost will remain constant. So as per the net operating income approach, if we are increasing the debt proportion also, there is no change in the cost, overall cost will remain same, constant. Okay, whereas net income approach says that if we are increasing the debt proportion in a capital structure, the cost will decrease and the value of the firm will increase. Okay, so these were two theories which we have already seen. After that, next one is traditional theory approach. Okay, just look at the screen. It is accepted by all that the judicious use of debt will increase the value of the firm and reduce the cost of capital. Okay, we have seen that as we are increasing the debt proportion in a capital structure, it will definitely reduce the cost, overall cost, and it will increase the value of the firm. Okay, so the optimum capital structure is the point at which the value of the firm is the highest and the cost of capital is its lowest. Optimum capital structure is what? Where the cost of capital is lowest, okay, and the value of the firm is at the highest. This is called as optimum capital structure. Practically, this approach encompasses all the ground between the net income approach and the net operating income approach, but it is in between, or it is the intermediate of net income approach and the net operating income approach. That is, traditional theory approach is the intermediate of both the net income approach theory and the net operating income approach theory. Okay, what traditional theory is saying? Traditional theory is saying, in the earlier situation or at the earlier stage, if we are increasing the debt proportion in a capital structure, then definitely it is going to reduce the cost of capital, that is overall cost of capital, okay, and it will increase the value of the firm. But as we are again increasing the debt proportion, or we are continuously increasing the debt proportion in our capital structure, then it will not reduce the cost of capital, that is overall cost of capital. Instead, the cost will increase. After certain point, if we are increasing the debt proportion in our capital structure, then what happens? The cost of capital will increase because the risk of equity holders is going to increase. And after a certain point, if the overall cost of capital is going to increase, the value of the firm will decrease. So traditional theory approach is intermediate of both the theories, that is net income approach and the net operating income approach. Just look at the screen. Practically, this approach encompasses all the grounds between the net income approach and the net operating income approach. That is, it may be called as intermediate approach. So therefore, this theory is also called as intermediate approach theory. The traditional approach explains that up to a certain point, debt equity mix will cause the market value of the firm to rise and the cost of capital to decline. But after attaining the optimum level, that means after a particular certain point, any additional debt will cause to decrease the market value and to increase the cost of capital. But after a certain point, the cost of capital will increase and the value of the firm will decrease if we are again increasing the debt proportion in our capital structure. In other words, after attaining the optimum level, any additional debt taken will offset the use of cheaper debt capital, since the average cost of capital will increase along with a corresponding increase in the average cost of capital, debt capital. Okay. According to this approach, the value of the firm can be increased or the cost of the capital can be decreased by a judicious mix of debt and equity capital. In this, 3 stages are given. First stage is increase in financial leverage, that is increase in the debt proportion. The use of increased debt in the capital structure results in the decrease in the overall cost of capital. If we are increasing the debt proportion in our capital structure, that is the first stage, it will definitely go on to decrease the overall cost of capital. Say for example, earlier it was 50% equity and 50% debt. Okay, after that what we are doing, we are increasing the debt proportion from 50 to 60 and we are decreasing the equity from 50 to 40. So debt proportion is increased from 50 to 60. Okay, so according to this theory, in this first stage where we are increasing the debt proportion from 50 to 60, then the overall cost of capital will definitely decrease. This is the first stage in the traditional approach theory. Now second stage is increase in leverage does not affect the overall cost of capital and the value of the firm. But as we have increased from 50 to 60, the proportion of debt, okay, if we are again increasing the debt proportion from 60 to 70, there will be no change in the cost of capital and the value of the firm. The cost of capital will remain constant and the value of the firm will also remain constant. This is the second stage. Up to after a certain point, if we reach the optimum capital structure, then the value of the firm will remain constant and the cost of capital also will remain constant. And there is a third stage in which, if we are after reaching the optimum capital structure, if we are again increasing the debt proportion in our capital structure, then this will lead to increase in cost of capital. If we are increasing the debt proportion beyond a certain point also, then what happens? The overall cost of capital will increase, and as the overall cost of capital will increase, there will be a decrease in the value of the firm. Okay, so third stage is further increase in the debt will lead to increase in overall cost of capital and will reduce the value of a firm. Fine. And there are some basic propositions of this approach are, first one is the cost of debt capital, that is KD, remains constant more or less up to a certain level and thereafter rises. KD, that is the cost of debt, will remain constant to some limit, to some extent, and after that it will increase. Okay. Second one is the cost of equity capital, that is KE, remains constant more or less or rises gradually up to a certain level and thereafter increases rapidly. And the third proposition is the average cost of capital, that is KW, decreases up to a certain level, remains unchanged more or less and thereafter rises after attaining a certain level. First of all, the average cost of capital will get reduced, will get decreased. After that it will remain constant, and beyond a certain point it will start increasing. Okay, so this is the traditional theory approach. And the fourth theory is Modigliani and Miller approach. The market value of the firm depends on its net operating income and the risk involved in it, not on the form of financing. As per this theory, the market depends on the net operating income of the firm. It not depends on the form of the financing. Modigliani and Miller approach says that there is no role of form of financing. Instead, it totally or completely depends on the net income of that particular firm organization. Okay. Now, what are the features of Modigliani and Miller approach theory? First one is capital market are perfect. Okay. Second feature is homogeneous risk classes of firm. Third one is expectations about the net operating income. There will be 100% payout ratio and there are no corporate taxes. These are some features of Modigliani and Miller approach. Modigliani and Miller advocated that the relationship between the cost of capital and capital structure and the valuation of the firm should be explained by net operating income approach by making an attack on traditional approach. The net operating income approach supplies a proper justification for the irrelevance of capital structure. The income approach, on the other hand, in income approach supplies proper justification for the irrelevance of the capital structure. See, we have seen that there is no relevance of the capital structure on the value of the firm. This is given by the net operating income approach, because in that there was no effect on the value of the firm as we are increasing or decreasing the debt proportion. If we are increasing the debt proportion also, there is no change in the value of the firm. If we are decreasing the debt proportion also, then there is also no change in the value of the firm. That is, capital structure is irrelevant to the calculation of value of the firm. It is irrelevant. Whatever be the capital structure, there is no impact or effect of that on the value of the firm. Okay, that is irrelevant. In this context, supports that net operating income approach on the principle that the cost of capital is not dependent on the degree of leverage irrespective of the debt equity mix. In other words, according to their thesis, the total market value of the firm and the cost of capital are independent of the capital structure. Okay, they advocated that the weighted average cost of capital does not make any change with a proportionate change in debt equity mix in the total capital structure of the firm. This says that it is irrelevant to the capital structure, because if we are changing the debt proportion in a capital structure, there is no change on the overall cost of capital. The overall cost of capital will remain constant, and thereby the value of the firm will remain also constant. Okay. So it was all about the Modigliani and Miller approach theory. Okay, the next point which we have to cover is that what is financing. Okay, we have to learn the different sources and the instruments of financing. First we will discuss what is financing. After that we will see the sources of financing. There are long term sources of financing also, there are short term sources of financing also. Okay, so we will see one by one. First we will see what is financing. Just look at the screen. Financing is a very important part of every business. Every business needs finance, every business needs funds, money to run. Okay, to finance its assets, to finance its equipments, to finance its activities. Okay, so financing is very important, or we can say finance is just like a blood for a body. Finance is required for the organization or to run a business organization. Okay, financing is very important part of every business. Firms often need financing to pay for their assets, equipments, and other important items. Financing can be either long term or short term. As is obvious, long term financing is more expensive as compared to short term financing. Definitely, if we are in need of funds for more than 1 year, okay, and if we are getting funds for a long term period, okay, then definitely the cost of long term financing will be more as compared to short term financing, because there we are getting funds for a more time, for a longer period of time. Okay, there are different vehicles through which long term and short term financing is made available. Now we have seen that there are two sources of financing. First one is long term source and the second one is short term source. Okay, but these sources have different views from where they can raise the funds. In long term also there are n number of ways through which we can raise long term funds, and in short term also there are n number of ways through which we can finance short term funds, we can raise funds. Okay, this chapter deals with the major vehicles of both the types of financing. The common source of financing are capital, that is generated by the firm itself, and sometimes it is the capital from external funders, which is usually obtained after issuance of a new debt and equity. We can either raise funds by our own, by internal sources, okay, or we can borrow from external sources also. Okay, if we are talking internal sources, now what is internal sources will be? Internal sources will include the retained earnings. Okay, retained earning means what? Retained earning means the profit earned by the organization in earlier years, in the last years. Okay, and we are not paying the dividend to its shareholders, to our shareholders of the organization. Instead, we are reinvesting that profit for grabbing some opportunities. That is retained earning. It comes under internal sources, and we can raise funds with the help of external sources also. External sources includes the debentures, that is debt or the borrowed funds. Okay, a firm's management is responsible for matching the long term or the short term financing mix. This mix is applicable to the assets that are to be financed as closely as possible regarding timing and cash flows. So this is financing. After that we have to see what are the financial instruments. Okay, in this we will see first source is long term financing and second one is short term financing. So what is long term financing and what are the ways under long term financing or raising funds? What are the ways in under long term financing? How we will raise the funds with the help of long term financing? Okay, so first, what is long term financing means? Everything you need to know about the sources of getting long term finance for a company or firm or of business is called as long term financing. If we want to raise